Meeting will come to order, and welcome to our February 10th work session. And Board Member Mr. Hodge is going to lead us in a pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, during our moment of silence, I'd like to keep the Blackman High School community in our thoughts and prayers, and especially the family of Daniel Winters. As I'm sure you already know, Daniel died in a car wreck this weekend, and it's always hard to have a death that affects our school system, but especially so when it's one of our students. We also want to remember the Broyles family. Stephen Broyles' father, James Morris Broyles, passed away Sunday. Stephen works in our maintenance department as a maintenance lead, so that's all. Please keep these families in our thoughts and prayers, and let's bow our head with the board for a moment of silence. Thank you. And Mr. Odom, I think you sent out an email that counselors were all, there were additional counselors.
They were there. That Ms. Barnes arranged that. Our counselor was there that morning and met with them and all.
Crisis response team, that once a counselor contacts one of them, they send out the word to the team that's responsible for those schools, and everyone shows up.
Thank you.
There were 2 additional siblings that attend there, and so Dr. Justice was concerned because it impacted so many people, so I really feel for the family and Blackman.
Certainly heartbreaking. Okay. Mr. Holliday, welcome you back, representing us in the Beltway, I guess. So we look forward to your presentation on tomorrow night. So we've moved it to Wednesday. And Ms. Moore, happy that you're feeling better after a bout of the flu. We're grateful that you did not share that with any of us. So,
you're welcome. And I'll get my flu shot next year.
Yes, ma'am. I strongly recommend that. So, okay. Any questions regarding the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to questions regarding the consent agenda.
I certainly don't have any problem with the contract with K. Nixon, but could the director offer some additional thoughts about what her responsibilities will be?
Mainly budget issues and things this year. So go through that process, grant writings, things like that. And Ms. Pilgrim's worked with her for the year, but we get the process now of as that information comes in, and we get opportunities to apply for sometimes what's called Perkins Reserve grants and other things. She's been very, very successful with that, so that's what we felt. It could be money well spent if we involved in that, and she can help us secure any of those.
I had a conversation with Tim Tackett after his presentation at our last board meeting about the value of some of our highly experienced and yet retiring assets here in our county, and that it may be a more typical occurrence to have those people continuing to serve in some part-time or contract capacity. And so I certainly acknowledge and recognize Kay Nixon's contribution for many, many years, and her willingness to continue to share her wisdom as we transition is very, very valuable to us. And I think it may be something that we see more often. It may be a good way to help us continue to use the experience and the wealth of knowledge from those who have gotten to a point in their career where retirement is right, and yet the community still appreciates their input.
Tackett's one of those.
Exactly, right, yeah, Mr. Tackett's one of those. So it's a unique occurrence that, you know, we don't think about in our employment standards, but it may be appropriate to see that more often. Along those lines, and I don't want to get into it, but her experience also will be helpful, and I highlight this one point. I'll say more tomorrow night, but the feedback that I received specifically about Perkins is that continuation of what we have now is for the foreseeable future, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. It took us 10 years to get ESEA at the brink of reauthorization. I hope it doesn't take 10 years, but it may take quite a while to get Perkins there.
I think what can also be said is we're grateful for the mentoring that these veteran administrators and educators, the experience that they give these administrators or directors in waiting, I guess you would say. And we're so blessed to have so much talent in this county that when we do have an exceptional leader to retire, there's always seems to be that quality individual to step into that role. So we're blessed in that aspect too.
Significant number of teachers come back and fill leaves also. Ms. Barnes will tell you this.
Good.
Maternity leaves and that sort of thing.
Well, we were very dependent upon those retirees when this evaluation process was rolled out. It was just kind of a tsunami of busy work. So I guess if it hadn't been for them, we never would have accomplished that. So spotlight on education. Do you want to say anything about that, Mr.
Well, I think you'll see that tomorrow, how we're tracking student data visually with the response to intervention and instruction, how we look at the data and do it by student, by skill. So I think you'll find that very interesting tomorrow night. It's some software program that we're using.
Who will be making that? Will you be making that? Presentation?
No, Mr. Trey Dukes and has got a couple of ladies that are using it. I don't know their names right off.
And you said graduation coaches?
Technology.
Technology. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Need to clean up. Number 8.
Number 8 is the summer school for grades 6 through 12. The instruction department is requesting approval for the 2015 summer school calendar. Plans are for middle and high school course offerings. Middle school sites will be Laverne Middle and Oakland Middle, and the high school site will be Blackman High. Middle school and high school offerings will be available during the first semester, which is from June 1st through June 25th, 2015. The high school only second semester is scheduled from June 29th through July 24th. Transportation services are not provided, and tuition will remain at $100 for the middle school, $100 per 1/2 credit for high school, and $200 for driver's education. The motion is to approve the instructional department's request for the summer school sites and calendar is presented. If I might add to you, why is the driver's ed the $200? It's the, we have to maintain the vehicles, the insurance, and other factors that go with that in driver ed, so it costs more in that particular driver ed program. It was, we were in the negative until we started, raise that fee some for the summer.
Is the expense of offering exactly the same as it would be in a semester of normal high school or middle school?
We try to make sure we cover the cost or the classes do not make. Some of your major courses like an Algebra 1 or an English 2 or something like classes may fill up. You'll have some of those that are not mainline courses that everybody takes, that the class size would be smaller. Of Of course, one of the things that you run into, many of these kids are taking the class again and trying to recover credit that they didn't do. So if we can keep the class size a little smaller, it's advantageous to us and the students also. So is to try to cover as much of the cost we can, although no ADM monies come from that, and there's some certainly expenses associated with it.
The free and reduced children.
Yes, that's right. They do not have to pay this fee to do that. Those that are free or reduced or taking those classes, come on. Anyway.
Without those summer school graduates, though, it would certainly make a difference in our
Graduation
overall
rate.
graduation.
You know, and I was at Holloway yesterday, and they have 79 night school students over there this semester, too. So we're large, and so summer school, night schools, extra online courses, that sort of thing, which you've been hearing about. We have so many opportunities for our students to recover or make up grades.
Number 9.
Number 9 is an information only from Mr. Snell. It's the Transportation Department. They put the last bus out of the 6 that were budgeted for 2014-15 school year. This brings our total fleet to 243 buses. With a contractor passing away on January the 5th, 2015, leaving 3 buses contracts vacant, 1 contract being abandoned, and 2 contracts being turned in since the beginning of the school year, we're at number 16 of 63 on the second priority list. For 5 days in the month of January and 1 day in February, we hosted the area state required safety in-service training conducted by the state pupil transportation state troopers. These troopers also inspect all buses and reinspect buses which have been involved in accidents. I would say that I heard several drivers have told me that they usually kind of dreaded coming, but it was very interesting this year. I actually told those troopers that we got compliments back that the training was very good this year. We had 14 accidents and 5 injuries through December 31st, 2014, compared to 11 accidents and 3 injuries through December 31st, 2013. In the bus fleet, we have 210 transit buses and 33 special education buses. After 15 years of age, all transit buses can get a 3-year extension. Buses that have obtained the 3-year extension are required to be inspected twice a year by the state pupil transportation inspectors at a cost of $770 per year borne by the contractor. Special education buses are not eligible for the extension. And below is a breakdown of our fleet in years of age, which I think you'll find interesting. Buses can run until the end of their 18th year with unlimited mileage. After the 18th year, the bus can run until it reaches 200,000 miles, at which point it must be removed from service. So Mr. Snell is here. If you'd like to follow up with some questions, he'd be glad to answer. Big fleet.
It is.
Our contract year, we'll renegotiate contract 2 more years. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Snell? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 10, Mr. Odom.
Number 10 is the new and revised policies, second reading. And this is policy 5.501, complaints and grievances. The revision will delete the portion of the policy allowing an appeal to the Board of Education, and this was based on state law. And policy 6.600, student records, the revision will incorporate the Tennessee School Board Association's model policy for student records. And the recommending approval, the motion is to approve the revisions to policy 5.501 and 6.600 on second and final reading as recommended by the policy committee.
I don't know if there's any.
Ms. Barnes can bring you up a little bit. We talked about it today, insurance.
Right. Just in basic information, we met on February the 5th to talk about the bid for our on-site medical clinics. There were 2 companies that submitted bids for that projection. Premise Health, who was formerly Take Care and our current contractor, and Care Here, which was our former provider. We met about 4.5 hours that day to listen to presentations, a lengthy question and answer period, and then the committee met by itself to make some recommendations, and the bid was awarded to Premise Health to be sent on to the Budget Committee. And again, that's formerly Take Care, which is our current provider. And then the other piece is just that the Risk Management Department is continuing to distribute information about the year 3 of our wellness initiative, the Know Your Numbers campaign. Copies were actually delivered, about 7,000 copies, if you will, to all of the employees in Rutherford County, to all the departments, the schools, and all the county general departments. So everyone would have paper copies of that same information that you received, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So making an effort to get the word out to everyone to begin this process and avoid that $30 extra fee.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Anybody have anything for Ms. Barnes? Okay, Tennessee Legislative Network, Mr. Hodge is going to make a presentation on Thursday night, and the same to be said for Wednesday night, excuse me, thank you. Normally Thursday, but we're going to the County Commission Thursday night, so. Same for Federal Relations Network by Mr. Holliday tomorrow night. And I guess general discussion by board members. Does anybody have anything? Mr. Odom, maybe you could say a few things about Governor Haslam's State of the State address about his budget. Yeah.
You know, I think the thing is most encouraging to us and behalf of the teachers and all in our system is that I'm glad the state recognizes the hard work, the efforts, the challenges associated with education today, and he's proposing a 4% raise. Remember, the 4%, though, the monies would only come on the state side or the state-funded portion of a teacher's salary. It depends upon your years and your degree how much is state and how much is local. But that money will only cover the state portion. We do not at this time know all of the details and requirements that come with that 4%. If the legislature approves it, we're assuming we get it, and that's still legislative. Is it a bonus or something? We don't think so necessarily, but they did say it would not be applied to the state salary schedule, which is that minimum salary schedule the state places out. So there'll be some additional guidelines. Will it be on the salary schedule kind of that you approved last year? Possibly on that, but it'll not go back to that state base is at least what we're hearing right now. But over the next few weeks, we'll know more about it. Unfortunately, I asked Jeff today, when is his state meeting where they get all of the financial people together? He said April, So by then, he is working on the budget for us now, but you can kind of see the dilemma he finds himself in very often when you don't know all the details at this particular point in time. But very pleased with that. Changes in BEP funding, some of the things dealing with that are, that's everything from some of the insurance component to some monies for transportation to some textbooks monies to all of those other things that the state provides some funds for that covers many other areas. That figure was considerably lower, than the other piece of that, the teacher pay, direct pay. So we'll kind of see how that comes down and how that's earmarked, and we do not know how much Rutherford County would be receiving in relation to that either, but that'll come up in the next few weeks also.
Especially after last year's disappointment when the governor announced the raises and then retracted because of the revenue shortfall. So I certainly hope this works its way through, since it didn't last year. Sales tax collections are up substantially over this last,
We're hearing 8 or 9%, isn't that what we're hearing typically, Jeff?
So far, hope the trend continues, we are about 9.4% in the county over last year, which will offset the growth money we won't be getting.
do you know what's trending statewide?
I think I heard more 4% statewide was the last number I heard. But don't hold me to that.
Anything on the positive side certainly be positive, so.
It's time for my commercial on that. You know, again, people say growth, you know, should cover us in that, but typically, when you look at what a person pays for a house, it would be $800 to $1,200 or something for a lot of the houses. It's about $3,000 in local monies that has to come up to pay for each student that's enrolled in school. So my commercial part is, please shop in Rutherford County, because that difference is gained back from that sales tax that we do, and ultimately, that helps save us on our property tax if we spend our money, sales tax money in Rutherford County. Good for our businesses, good for others, right, Mr. Former Chairman?
Absolutely correct.
I think Mr. Evans put together
Got a couple of things from Mr. Evans. One is a fact book. So you've got the 2015 version of the fact book that we will also share with the county commission and others as we go speak. Things like Leadership Rutherford, that sort of thing. He's added a few new features this year. Anything you want to draw their attention to specifically that you, as a new feature this year, James? I'll let you.
We've added some stuff this year about the career and technical education and the mechatronics information, because we had some requests for that last year. The chamber likes to use that information to promote development efforts in the county for potential companies moving here. And so we've added some pretty encouraging statistics on that program. There's some others too. Mike Snell was able to provide me a transportation update, much like the one he did tonight. We also had some information about our RTI program and the coordinated school health program.
It's a good reference book for when buildings were done and that sort of thing. The other things, Mr. Evans, is, and I've got a copy in your folder today for this week in a district administration, which is a magazine that goes out all over the United States that they publish. It typically goes to principals, superintendents, others in school administration. They'd heard about the growth in Rutherford County from a national standpoint, so Mr. Evans provided this interview for them, and it's in this current edition, which actually came out this week, so you can kind of read that. Another thing I might say about in relation to career and technical, Mr. Evans mentioned today a visiting team from Montgomery County came to look at our Megatronics program. The Megatronics has drawn a tremendous amount of attention, so they came down to look at it, see what they might do. Miss Pilgrim told me this afternoon she'd been called by Williamson County, Dixon County, what was the other one, Mr. Hodge? And Davidson County, right. Williamson, Davidson, Dixon, and they want to schedule visits to come down and look at our Megatronics program. So you really have the lead programs, I think, the ones at Oakland and Siegel in the state of Tennessee right now. People are looking at it and trying to understand it.
It's part of what I'll share tomorrow night, but I'll go ahead and share. Not only is Rutherford County leading across the state of Tennessee, but Tennessee is leading across the nation. And so we're really talking about what we're doing in this county, in this system, having a ripple effect influence across the country, because our senators and our representatives are using the reforms that we're putting in place in Tennessee, and Rutherford County is leading the way in those reforms and the effective application of those. It's one thing to talk about, hey, we're going to change some things. It's another thing to change some things and effectively put those changes in place. And that's what we're doing here in Rutherford County. Certainly among the best systems in Tennessee, but uniquely in our country. Other areas of the country have heard about reform, but they've not effectively put it into place. And that interest in changing and improving is not going away. And more people will be taking a look at us. And one of the opportunities is going to be that National School Boards Conference that'll be here in March, where board members from across the country will gather in Nashville and will also come to see us. But you don't get any of the goodies till tomorrow night, because that's when I'm supposed to do my presentation.
I'd say Tennessee Promise is probably as good as example as anything of the nation watching a example of a reform or an opportunity for our students to further their post-secondary education. Anything else, Mr. Odom?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Ms. Sam.
When coordinated school health was mentioned a few minutes ago, I was in one of my business official meetings, and one of our topics at lunch was coordinated school health, and it was nice to be able to be one of the ones who said, our program is working and doing well. The grants that Ms. Stitzel has gotten, putting walking tracks and all like that, none of my friends had stuff like that going on with their programs in their system, so that was a good plus, and I was glad that I was able to say it. Yeah, we had misgivings about the program, but it has worked well for us, thanks to Ms. Stitzel and her staff.
Thank you. You have something else, Mr. Holliday?
Yeah, when I left our last board meeting, I ran over to Siegel High School, and just in discussion in a work session here, I'll share with the fellow board members. I was going to a AP open house, so the advanced placement curriculum that happens at Siegel High School. They had an event where they wanted parents to come in and be able to put on display what's going on in their AP program. The principal and assistant principal, much of the faculty were there. They each had tables about their individual curriculum programs. It was just an outstanding presentation of that program, but even better than the presentation that night was the effective use of the AP curriculum in that school building. They, I always thought of AP being those junior and senior level courses. They had, this is the AP class that we recommend for our freshmen. Here are the AP classes for our sophomore. It's 4 years of a really effective advanced placement program there at Siegel High School. They're making an incredible use of that program, and they're very dedicated to it. One of the failings that I see in the AP program, or potential failings, is that you might take that advanced placement course, you might work through it all year long, and then say, but I'm not going to take the exam at the end. And you may get additional experience. There's certainly benefit to the coursework, but one of the things that Siegel is really doing is they have a high emphasis on taking the exam at the end of the course and effectively performing on the exam at the end of the course. Siegel High School is doing an incredible job in their AP program. I'm a big advocate for dual enrollment. I like dual enrollment. I like all the things that it does, but we've got to keep our hands in the AP program as well, as long as Siegel High School is doing all that they're doing right there. They're really setting the pace, again, for our system and around the country for effective use of the AP program. Hats off to their AP program.
I was at Central Magnet Friday, and they told me that they had the potential this year to give over 1,500 AP exams. The kids have taken that many courses that would involve an AP exam, so it's over 1,500. You'll also find a large number at Blackman High School also.
Yeah.
That, and the thing that is tough, it's the exam's about $91 or something like that, close to it. So it's not cheap for that. There is some help, some breaks for students financially if they have trouble paying that. But we talked about a few years ago when I was in instruction about could we help pay for it or something like that. And we talked, if we do that, we also got to pay for industry certification for some of the others. So the financial burden from a district was quite large, and gets large quickly when you have over 1,500 possible exams. So that was the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Young, I'm sorry.
I just want to add that we
with all the positive things we do have going on in the county, we need to also stay focused on the growth. I mean, this was some discussions I've had last week, building supplies, one building supply was telling me they were averaging shipping out 50 homes a day. And, a builder was telling me he's busier now than he's been in 20 years. So with that kind of information coming about, I mean, we need to really be focused on this budget and making sure we're doing everything we can to get rid of portables and getting our schools built. We need to stay focused on that.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hodge.
If we don't already, I'd like to see that on the fact book, send all the state legislators, our representatives.
Great idea.
Okay.
I think it's probably very well done.
That's a great idea.
Looking at it and, just for the, just for the sake of it, I guess, maybe, Mr. Holliday, you may want to forward copies up to people you met with. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in it. But I'd like to definitely speak to it.
Yes.
Anybody else have anything else for tonight? Well, we'll be back together again tomorrow evening, and then, in the commission meeting starts at 6. Okay, so Thursday night, the entire commission, so. All right. Didn't look like anyone has anything else, so we will stand adjourned.